In elder days now, I'm stationed at the border of Finland in Haparanda, the sister city to Tornio, So it's only 12 hours from here by train, so we're neighbors. So I'm happy to come here and see. Let's try to glorify the Lord Krishna, who appears today in the form of Balaram, his his elder brother. So it's amazing that God has a brother, isn't it? In the Semitic religions of the Middle East, like Judaism and Christianity and Islam, the idea of God having a consort is a little fuzzy. It's not really clear there. But in the Vedas, particularly in the Bhagavad Dharma, the classical heritage of India, there the idea that God is both male and female. God is the source of everything, and his energy is his consort. We have Radha Krishna, we have Lakshmi Narayan, we have Sita Ram, etc., etc. Shiva and Parvati, and so on and so on. So the Bhagavad Dharma, it explains with great emphasis that there are three aspects of God, particularly, and they are the impersonal, all-pervasive Brahman, that is the energy or the light of God. But beyond that, there is the localized form of God, who is in the heart of every living entity. We all have our inner witness and guide and the voice of our conscience and our well-wisher and there, even this wonderful linden tree here, it's been standing there for maybe 200 years, and there's a huge spruce tree there, 150 years or something. Even they have also the Lord there, the Paramatma. So great is the kindness of God. He follows every one of us through all our various sojourn, our journey through different species of life. That's the understanding of the samsara, the repetition of birth and death. Because somehow or other we've forgotten about God, or maybe we even revolted against God. Then therefore we have now assumed various species here. But now we have the human form. And this is a tremendous opportunity that we can consider very carefully where we are, why, where from we have come, where shall we go from here? These important questions. These young children here, they're very fortunate in being able from their very start of their life to be in an association which cultivates this awareness. That's a wonderful opportunity. But beyond this localized aspect, there's the supreme aspect, and that is Bhagavan. That's a very secret thing. God is actually a person. And he has his own world. And he has his own friends. He has his own family. And he has servants, and he has also expansions. So that one of the first expansion is Balaram. we're chanting here the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Rama here, it refers to Balaram. Somebody may say it refers to the Sitaram, and that's also possible. Maybe someone has that. There's the term Ishta Devata, yeah. That, there is a possibility that one may have one's own cherished deity. That's perfectly, God is kind. He will reciprocate with us like that, to accept a form which is in accordance with our own desire and taste. So he's very kind about that. So, somebody may say, Sita, okay, there's no argument. But at least today, on Balarama Purnima, the full moon day where we're honoring the appearance of Krishna's elder brother, then we may think that, the Rama in the Hare Krishna mantra, it's Balaram. And I'd like to read now from a description from a classic scripture of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Thank you. Of course, the Vaishnava Sampradaya, this is the worshippers of Vishnu. And according to scholarly, understanding, we don't actually follow scholars. We actually follow Shastra and Guru. But the scholars who have studied the scriptures of India, they also include perhaps the followers of Lord Shiva can also be amongst those who worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that sense, also Vaishnavas, they're theists. They believe that God is a person. And maybe even monotheists, understanding that ultimately all the different forms of God originate from the original one and only personality of Godhead, who's Asamurdva. If you know the Sanskrit, maybe those who know Hindi here, they would understand that Asama means there's nobody who's the same as him. Nobody's can be equal to him. And he's Urdhva. Urdhva means surpassing, higher. Nobody can be higher than God. Just like the tip of the Mount Everest, it's the highest place on earth. There's only one. It's there. That's one and only. So similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one without a second, you could say. So that's in scholarly terms, they describe that as monotheism, one God. But that doesn't preclude that God, like we were just saying, may appear to each and every of his servants and friends and devotees as an Ishta Devata, a particular form which that devotee in the heart is attractive, in the heart of that devotee is attractive. Which leads us also to the name of God, which is Sankarshana, which means the God who is attractive. Krishna means also actually attractive. So that is the central quality of God. How can you imagine God if he's not attractive to everybody? Maybe he's so attractive to some people that they want to make war against him. That's called asuras. They're so attracted to God's wealth and power and his opulence and beauty and his fame and everything that they wanted. So they're also attracted, but they're attracted to kill him and take it, And then God kindly reciprocates with them and says, okay, you like to fight, so let's fight. And then he kills them and he gives them liberation. So he's the friend of everybody, even the enemy. He's friend of everyone, but for those who want to see him as enemy, well, then he kindly accepts a reciprocal relationship there. But we are devotees. We want to see God as our friend. He is our friend. He is our well-wisher. He's um, our father and mother. So we are um, looking to him for as a master, and we are basically we're his servants. And my spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he says that the relationship of master with God as master and devotee as servant, he puts it in this way: it's the most congenial form of intimacy. You know, many of us, most of us, have more or less bad experience with authorities. You know, this age that we're living in, it's the Kali Yuga, and unfortunately, those who are in positions of leadership are often not often not entirely concerned about the welfare of their wards, the people that they're taking care of. They have other interests. They want to get reelected, or, party politics and so many things. So sometimes we, think, oh God, to be a servant, oh my God, that's like the worst thing in the world, slave and exploited and misbeating, whatever, this. But we have to, think outside our box, actually, to understand that a relationship with the Supreme Master, with the Lord, this is what an experience. Those who have experienced this, they call it the intimacy. It's the most congenial form of intimacy, because God is great, and the toughest thing that is for us, when we're in our, material consciousness, is to admit that we're small, and that we are servant, and that the Lord is master. But that is actually a very happy and wonderful position. There we are in what is described in philosophical terms as our constitutional position. Just like just like to be a Finnish citizen. To give an example here, to be a Finnish citizen means that you are a member of the Finnish society. You belong here. This is your place. You have rights, and you have also, of course, responsibility, obligations. But that is an example. So similarly, when we are situated in our position as a servant of God, then we have an engagement and a relationship and a position which gives us total and complete security. But now, some people would be afraid, oh, that means that you become just like a baby. It's like religion is some kind of opium, which makes you dull in your brain. You can't become fully developed as an individual. But no. That it's not that dependence upon God is like that. Actually, dependence upon God gives us sovereignty. That's a fact. Because when we become dependent on God, then we become free from our slavery, actually, to material nature. We all have to admit, now I'm elder days now, and I can see that energy is gradually, maybe your elders here can sympathize, but we are conducted by stringent laws of material nature. We become old, and the risk is that we become sick. Now we have the plague here, almost like the Middle Ages, with the COVID. And let's see where we go. Hopefully, we will not become. It's nice that we're being able to be outside now, and we're more than 50. We're obeying the civil directions here of the authorities. We're not going to be more than what is it? 25 actually inside for more than 15 minutes. I think that's the limit here. And 50 we can be outside. So we're following. We understand that we have as citizens responsibility to help minimize the spreading of this epidemic. Anyway, what I wanted to say was that we are in the stringent laws of material nature, but when we depend upon God, then we become liberated. And Krishna guarantees that in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, before I there's a couple of things that I wanted to do here before time is flying here. And one of them is that I would just like to read a few verses from this classic scripture of the Gaudiya Vaishnava. The Vaishnava Sampradaya is all over India. Maybe somebody's from South India, the Sri Sampradaya. There's the Pushti Marg in Gujarat and so on. But in the Bengal, it's the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya of Chaitanya, 500 years ago, rejuvenated this Krishna Bhakti. And this classic book is called the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And here the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, he speaks about Baladev here. And I'd just like to read 2 or 3 verses which explain about the perception of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas on Krishna's elder brother, Balaram, whose appearance day we're honoring today. So it says here, not to speak of others, even Lord Baladev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is full of emotions like pure friendship and paternal love. So like I said, God has a brother, but God has also a father. Of course, God is the father of everyone. But if some very pure devotee wants to have Krishna, God as his son, then Krishna accepts that role. So, that's one role. And there's another role of friendship. Just like we know in the Bhagavad Gita, that the friend of Krishna was who? In the Bhagavad Gita, who's the friend of Krishna? Arjuna, yes, the Pandava hero. He was Krishna's friend. They were born at the same. Krishna's unborn, of course, but he appeared to take birth in the womb of Devaki and Vasudeva. Somebody says Yashoda and Nanda. That's another discussion, maybe next week. When it's Janmashtami. But Krishna appeared at the same time as Arjuna, so they were contemporaries. And Krishna gave Arjuna that friendship. I'm freezing here. How about all the people here? Well, you're used to Finland. I'm a foreigner here, so thank you. From Tornio, yeah. Okay, well that's even further north. But I'm originally from southern, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's like tropical, moderate. Anyway, so Arjuna was the friend of Krishna. So Krishna has friends, and now we're also going to hear now. Let us continue here. The next verse. He also considered that's Baladev, the elder brother, who's he has this friendship with Krishna, and he also has like paternal love. Like anybody who have an older brother who has like kind of this like when you grew up, he kind of always had the feeling he was keeping an eye on you. I have 2 like that, Well, like one is no longer with us. That's the soul, but they always were like fathers to me. And anyway, so that Baladev, he was like friend with Krishna because he's elder brother, who's also like paternal relationship. Yeah. So then in the next verse it says, Baladev also considers himself a servant of Lord Krishna. Indeed, who is there who does not have this conception of being a servant of Lord Krishna? So Baladev, although he's, the elder brother, but still in the transcendental relationship, he feels that he is being, the father of Krishna as a service. Just like, these young children, they're dependent upon the mother and the father, right? But, a really good parent will have this feeling that I am doing this as a service to this young person, my son or daughter. They're actually, this is my responsibility and my mission now, at least in this period of my life, to see that this young boy or girl has the proper protection and whatever they need, and the education and so on, proper upbringing and orientation in life. That requires some integrity. That requires that the parents themselves know or have their goal and their own identity intact. Otherwise, you can't really be competent at that job. So anyway, here I wanted to carry on. The next verse is a connection. He, Balaram, right, is also Shesha, Shankarshan, with his thousands of mouths, and he serves Krishna by assuming 10 forms. Now, it's not detailed here exactly what the 10 forms are, but we did read earlier today that Balaram, he accepts the form of he accepts in the form of Vishnu. He accepts the form as Vishnu's resting place, right? He also his shoes and his Brahmin thread and different paraphernalia. So in that sense, if we say that this Krishna temple here, it's Krishna is the original Vishnu, that is explained, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that Krishna is the source of all incarnations. That's explained in the Bhagavad Purana. So say that this, Vishnu, Krishna form of Vishnu, this temple is Vishnu. So this foundation and the building and the the electricity and the plumbing and the gardens and all this arrangement, it's Baladev, because Vishnu is resting here, so we can in the vision of the scriptures here see that this whole facility here, it's Baladev. And Baladev, he's also appears, it says here, in his thousands of mouths. Well, what is that, thousands of mouths? Well, Baladev, he also has another form. It's mentioned here, Shesha, Shesh Naga. Those who are familiar with the Sanskrit, and you may recognize this, that he takes the form of a divine serpent. This is the pastime of God. God can appear in any form. We cannot say, oh, God has to come according to a form which we think is, no. God can come in any form. He can come in the form of a boar. He can come in the form of a tortoise, korma, and the boar, varaha, So he comes also in the form of the Sheshnaga, this wonderful snake. Now we're running out of time here. We have just a few 10 minutes left here. But, I have a wonderful poem here written by a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON. And he's passed away now in 2007. But he was a sannyasi, he was a Westerner, when he was joined this movement in the 60s or 70s, he was a young man. and he sacrificed. He never married. He just worked as a monk, and then later on he became a renounced monk, formerly a sannyas. And he wrote a wonderful a poem here about Ananta. I only have 15 copies, but I wonder if, could we pass these around, and maybe, as far as possible, you could. I think I need one also, because we're going to come explain it, and then I'll give it. Yeah, this is a wonderful poem, and it's written. Try to understand. It's a poetic poem. Poem is poetic, but it's describing this wonderful form of Ananta Shesha, this divine serpent who holds up the whole universe. The universes, the gravity in the universes are said to come from Ananta Shesha. And each universe, with its thousands of planets and, dark holes and all the things that astronomers are discovering nowadays, they're all just like a mustard seed. Mustard seed, how big that is? It's about, that big. And they're all like on the heads of thousands of heads of this divine Ananta Shesha. So try to understand. It says here, firelight at midnight, I laid myself to sleep. It's the point of view of the ordinary person in the world here. And I tried to forget about my loneliness and my worries. A person who, just like we all have this experience sometimes, if not often, of wanting to just take rest because of sometimes life is a hard struggle. Okay, and then he says, they said I had it all, but they said I had it all, just like us in the West here. We have big advanced city and trains and cars and, so many computers and fancy iPhone or, Android, we have so many things. So they said I had it all, but, they say, people think I'm rich, but I'm caught in a net of unsatisfied desires. And there's an aching in my soul that's driving me mad. The more you have, the more you think you don't, more, well, if I had, another, iPod, and if I had the latest Ferrari and, whatever it is. So these desires are, self-perpetuating. And I just want darkness to overcome me. In English, there's a saying, I just want to pull the blanket over my head, at night when it gets to be too much, you're just exhausted from, struggle for existence all day. You just want to lay down and pull the blanket over your head, temporary, disappear from the world. And let the waves of sleep carry me far away, from all this, these unsatisfied desires. And then he says, Ananta Sheshnaga, the unlimited Sheshnaga, this divine serpent. And then he goes on now, second verse. But suddenly, without warning, I was floating through the night, leaving my body behind, out of body experience. Even the doctors in the hospital, they had cases where, people were operated and they were observing it, So I saw the universe below me like a tiny mustard seed, this gigantic cosmos and I could hardly see it, this, the big cosmos that but we couldn't even see it. And there was a billion of them, suddenly, he's seeing something. And it was like, and each one of them, these, it was like a jewel on the head of a serpent. This is Ananta Shesha's description. He's a serpent, and he has a jewel on his head. Okay, and he has billions of tongues. This Ananta Shesh, this divine expansion of Balaram. He has millions of tongues, and he's singing. And his singing is extremely attractive. And then the guy is saying here, and I'm starting to wonder, am I awake or am I asleep? What is this? I'm seeing this, And then he says, Ananta Sheshnaga, endless form, endless bliss. the Supreme Lord appears like this. It has nice rhyme, this, poem. It has rhyme and also a nice meter to it. It's okay. And then, so then the last verse here, I was shaken and bewildered. All my petty problems just vanished from my view. And the nectar of the singing, he was hearing the singing of this, thousands of mouths of this, divine serpent upon whose head the entire cosmos was just like a little tiny mustard seed. The singing was so sweet. And it filled my very soul with the most wonderful truth. It wasn't just an emotion, it was actually an epiphany, you could say, a divine realization of reality, And my only wish is to see him and his millions of hoods spread out across eternity, all time. He's the resting place of Vishnu, and he's always merciful to the most fallen like me. And at the time of devastation, fire emanates from his billions of mouths. A little back, according to the Vaishnava theology, at the bottom of the cosmos, there is this Ananta Shesh Naga, and he's patiently controlling his anger, but he's upset that when human beings are just after exploiting Mother Nature and, raping and, just personal aggrandizement and profiteering and so on, he becomes frustrated. Why? They have a human form of life. They have this great opportunity to take advantage to go and serve the Lord, and they're blowing it. So he's controlling his anger. But at the time of devastation, he, with the help of Lord Shiva, he kind of loses his temper. God also can lose his temper sometimes, at least at the time of the end of the cosmos. And it says, at the time of devastation, fire emanates from his billions of mouths, and it sets the galaxies ablazing. And it's by our ignorance that his wrath is aroused. It's a very nice rhyme scheme here. His mouths and our wrath aroused. So his wrath, his anger, it's because of our foolishness and our, sinfulness, actually. But if we take his mercy, Ananta will deliver us from all our fears. So don't you fail to believe me. Just let his divine singing go into your ears. Ananta Shesh Naga. Okay, now we're running out of time. We have 5 minutes left. But we can listen to this, actually. Janardhan, you have this?
Yeah.
For this monk, he sang this song himself. And we can play now the music. It's set in kind of, the 1960s popular music genre. So maybe some of you who are not familiar with that, you'll think it's a little strange. But in any case, he's using a material musical genre for a very, very spiritual purpose. So, and he sings like that also. He was a very calm and very, self-controlled and peaceful person. And he died very peacefully. Also, he died in Mayapur Dham, and he was holding his hand in his bead bag when he died. When his disciples found him the next morning, his hand was in his bead bag. He was a very peaceful person. But in this song, his voice is like, rah, rah. Okay, so please look at the sheet here now. You ready?
We listen the whole thing of
140. Start from 140 because we only have 4 minutes left. No. There's some music, a very nice musical introduction. It builds up very, very slowly. It starts off very, very calm. And then he gets up to, Ananta Shesh Wrath, So we skip the early part, start with 140. You ready? So, okay, but still, time and tide wait for no man.
Midnight, I laid myself to sleep and I tried to forget
about my loneliness and my worry. They say I have it all, but I'm just caught in a net of unsatisfied.
What happened?
My soul that is driving me mad. That one darkness will overcome me. Oh, let the witness
Ananta Shesh Naga.
without warning. I was floating through the night, leaving my body behind. I saw the universe below me. Like a tiny mustard seed that I hardly could find. There was a million more. Each one was like the tulip on the head of the snake. With a million more, he was singing. I was wondering how my people away.
Ananta Shesh Naga. Ananta Shesh Naga. Endless form, endless bliss, supreme law.
Endless bliss, the supreme law. It's like that, the supreme law. It's like that.
Shesh Naga. Ananta Shesh Naga. Shesh Naga. Shesh Naga. Endless form, endless bliss, endless form, endless bliss. The supreme law. It's like that. The supreme law. It's like that. I was shaking and bewildered. All my petty problems simply vanish from view. As the nectar of his singing, fill my very soul with the most wonderful truth. My only wish is to see him with his millions of hoods spread out across eternity. He's the resting place of Vishnu. He's always merciful to those who fall like me. Devastation. Fire emanates from his billions of miles. It's just a galaxy ablazing. And wild ignorance that his wrath is around. But if we take conversion, the will deliver us from all of our fears. But you fail to believe me. The lady is still I'm singing, go right into your ear. I'm on time. She's endless form, endless bliss, endless form, endless bliss. Supreme law, it's like that. Supreme law, it's like that. Okay, Sahitra Swami Ki Jai. Yeah. We can use anything and everything in the service of the Lord if we are doing it for the purpose of pleasing the Lord. Even this like rock 1960s rock music, if it's used to glorify, the endless form, the endless bliss, the supreme Lord appears like this. This is also Krishna consciousness. Maybe some of you didn't appreciate this particular musical genre. That's okay. But we should appreciate the Supreme Lord here. Now, questions? Anyone have some question or comment before we now go on to the arati? At least this, yes, sir.
Who's this guy?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, he is a former, he's passed away now since 2007, but he was one of the pioneer American devotees in the Krishna movement. And he dedicated his life to serving the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness in the Western countries. And in due course, he came to Europe in the like 80s, and he was in charge of distributing these literatures to all throughout the European countries. And one of his company came to. I remember when I just arrived in Sweden in the 70s. His company of 4 men were traveling all over Europe, and they came to Finland. They had just come to Stockholm, where I met them, from Finland, and they loved Finland. Why? Because there's a very elaborate library system here in Finland, and they like English. So they were really accepting these Vedic books, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Purana, these other books which this man was, So anyway, he gradually became important here in Finland, and he has, disciples still to this day. He became mentor for example, Chuta Mataji, also Janardhan, and Vairagya Lakshmi, and so many others. I don't know all them, but then in due course, he retired to a holy place of pilgrimage in Bengal, Mayapur, in his last days. And he was just absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and he passed away. And he passed away with his hand clutching his mala, where you count the mantras that you're chanting. So he's an intimate servant of God. So this song, I was a little hesitant to ask Tapodivyam, can we play this today? This Ananta Shesh Naga, with the guitar and everything, because it's a little dated, from that point of view. But I'm glad to see you seem to be appreciating it.
Oh yeah.
Great. So at least somebody liked it. And if you didn't like the music, but please, take the paper, and have a look at it. I think you will appreciate the poetry. You did a great job there. Thank you, sir. Nice question. Anything else? Because it's time for arati. Can you come and here and explain the program? So I thank you very much for this opportunity. It was a great honor for me to be here. Hare Krishna. I have so many blankets here, I can't get up anymore.
His Grace Yogendra Prabhu ki. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Wonderful lecture on Lord Balaram. But then,